Okay, we just finished the slides. We're going to come back to the code, open it up, and go through. So here's my code. I'm in the AJAX lecture, number 1, AJAX Basics. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to open up basics.html. So we learned what AJAX was. We looked at a diagram to understand the overview of AJAX, how it connects the front end with the back end. Now let's make an AJAX request. So here I have a button. When they click on the button, I'm going to call the getContent function. So I need to create this. So I'm going to create it right here. Create a function. It's going to be called getContent. Okay, and I'm going to put this, I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to put the comments in. If you go back to our diagram, okay, if you go back to the diagram we were just looking at, it says the first thing I need to do is create an XML HTTP request object, or I need to create an AJAX object. So I'm going to do that now. First, you create the AJAX object. I'm going to call it XML HTTP. Okay, I'm going to call the built-in object that browsers have. It's called XML HTTP request. So this is building an AJAX request. And then I need to set up the function when that AJAX request returns. So I have one that's called onReadyStateChange, and it's going to call this anonymous function. Now the anonymous function will need a semicolon here. And we need to check two things. First, we need to make sure that the response, the ready state, is equal to 4. So if I go back to my slides, you'll see there's a few responses. And if it's equal to 4, it means the request is finished and response is ready. If I try to access it when the request is not initialized, or the server connection is established, or request received, or processing request, the data won't be there. I need to make sure the request is finished and the response is ready. Otherwise, I won't be able to receive the response. And I want to make sure that nothing bad happened, like maybe the server code crashed. So I want to make sure I get a status back at 200. Now, you remember status 200 is okay. Okay means everything went well, the code ran, and the response is ready. Code didn't crash, everything's ready to go. Now, when the response comes back, I'm going to grab it using that object. So they have one called the response text. Now, the response text won't be there until the ready state is 4 and make sure the server didn't crash. So once this is true, then the response text will be available. Okay, then the response text will be available, and then I can update the page. So let's say below I grab the content box by using the DOM, getElementById function, which we learned before. I'm going to grab the content box and update the inner HTML with the response. Okay, you're going to see this a lot. So this comment, I'm creating the request object. So I'm creating the JSON object. That link goes there if you want to read about it. The onReadyStateChange goes here. Then the response, okay, goes here. And then we will send a request here soon. So this is creating the object, and this is setting up when that response comes back. So I go back to my graph. Here's what's going to happen. I need to create the object. We haven't sent the object yet, but I need to send it. And then when the response comes back, I need to process the return data. So that's what I'm doing now. This is processing the return data. Okay, so this right here is, let's start with here. So first we need to create an XML HTTP request object. Okay, I also call this an AJAX object. Okay, then we need to set up what will happen when we get a response from the server. Once that's set up, then we can actually open a request and send it. So here I'm going to call that same object. I'm going to call the open method. Now the open method will take 3 parameters. The first one is the method we're going to use to send it, where it's going to. So we have one called responder.php, and whether you want it asynchronous or not. So remember in the slides, we said we should always use asynchronous. Okay, and then we actually need to send that request. So there's a lot of steps here, but most of the AJAX requests all look the same. The difference is the code here. Once you receive that response, what do you actually want to do with it? That may differ. But creating an object, setting up what happens when you get the response, opening the request and sending requests, that's all pretty much the same. So that's standard. So here we're specifying the type of request, which is usually GET or POST, can be others, and where it's going, and whether it's asynchronous or not. Okay, then we will send the AJAX request. Okay, so lots happening here, but this is the basic flow. Create the AJAX object, set up what happens when you get the response, open up the request, send the AJAX request. Now you'll notice I'm using responder.php. I didn't put a server there. I didn't put a file path there. So it's going to look on the local host in the same directory as this HTML file. So let's open up responder.php. I'm going to upload my code to the server. I'm going to look at responder.php. Now responder.php is going to wait 3 seconds and then print out hello AJAX. So this is my response, which is a string. So let's come back to the code. Let's run it. So I'm opening up number 1 basics, and I'm going to click the button. So I click the button. Let's move the code over here, and there's hello AJAX. Okay, so let's see. Let me see this here. So hold on 1 second. Okay, so refresh, click on the button, wait 3 seconds, hello AJAX. Now you'll see as I'm waiting, I really don't know what's going on. So it's always good to put some user feedback. Okay, so it can be as simple as just saying that I'm loading. So in the content box, while we're waiting for this request to come back, I'm going to update the inner HTML and let the user know something's happening. Right now, we click the button. We're just waiting there. Okay, we're just waiting there. Nothing's happening. I can still move around. And now it finally shows up. Okay, but if I put this loading message, refresh, click the button, I can see it's loading, so I know something's happening. And now the hello AJAX comes. So that's a better experience, and you'll need to do that for your challenge. Okay, so we added this loading message in the content box before receiving our response, okay, to let the user know what's happening. Okay, we will continue with the next video to go over the next code snippet. Make sure you upload this code to the server. Make sure the code runs, and we'll move on to the next code example. We'll see you in the next video.